Imagine an airliner, weighing over 200 tons, about to become a powerless glider over the dark Atlantic Ocean. No engines working. Below, thousands of feet of deep black water. Above, only the night sky, and nowhere nearby to land. Before this day, no commercial aircraft in history had ever lost all its fuel from a leak. No pilot had ever faced this. There was no training manual, no checklist, no precedent to tell them what to do next. Hello friends! It was August 23, 2001. Around 11 p.m., Toronto's Pearson Airport was buzzing. Gates were filled with families, couples, and students boarding their flights for summer vacation. At one of those gates stood Air Transat Flight 236, scheduled for an overnight journey from Toronto to Portugal. On board were 293 passengers and 13 crew members, 306 people in total. Most were Canadians of Portuguese descent, heading home for the summer. At 12:52 a.m. on August 24th, the flight took off. To reach Lisbon, it had a long journey across the entire Atlantic. Within minutes, the plane climbed to 39,000 feet and settled into its cruise. Passengers had dinner, some watched movies, children fell asleep, and the cabin lights were dimmed. It felt like any other normal transatlantic flight, peacefully cruising over the dark ocean. Everything seemed perfect. But inside the cockpit, something was happening that would soon make this flight one of the most dangerous in aviation history. The people on board had no idea a ticking time bomb was counting down. Over the middle of the ocean, the aircraft was about to lose all its fuel, and both engines would eventually shut down. Even more shocking, the captain in command had previously served prison time on drug smuggling charges, though no one on the plane knew about his past. The root of the problem had actually started 9 days earlier, where a difference of just a few millimeters would decide the fate of this aircraft. On August 15, 2001, during a routine inspection, Air Transat's maintenance team found metal chips in the oil system of the right engine, a serious sign of trouble. 2 days later, more metal particles were found. It was clear, the engine had to be replaced, but Air Transat didn't have a spare. So they borrowed one from Rolls-Royce. And that's where the real trouble began. Imagine your phone charger breaks, and you replace it with one that looks identical, but the pin inside is slightly different. It might work for a few days, but eventually it could cause a short circuit. Something similar happened here. The replacement engine from Rolls-Royce was an older design, while the aircraft's systems were newer. Externally, they looked the same. But internally, the fittings for the fuel and hydraulic tubes were slightly different. Unfortunately, no one caught this difference during the inspection. The engine replacement work began on the night of August 17th and had to be finished by Sunday afternoon for scheduled flights. The mechanics were under intense time pressure. While installing the new engine, they hit a problem. The hydraulic pump didn't fit because a fuel tube was in the way. The lead technician checked the Airbus parts list and realized the fuel and hydraulic tubes on this engine were a different design from the rest of the plane systems. He tried to access the Rolls-Royce manual on 3 different computers, but the network was down each time. Here's the shocking part. The service manual was actually available offline on CDs. In the same building, but the lead technician didn't know about them. The very document that hundreds of lives depended on was sitting nearby unread. Under severe pressure, the technician took a shortcut. He installed the newer design fuel tubes, but kept the older hydraulic tubes. So now, 2 incompatible parts were fitted together on the same engine. The Rolls-Royce service bulletin clearly stated that the fuel and hydraulic tubes must always be replaced as a matched set. But since the bulletin wasn't read, this critical instruction was missed. When the hydraulic system was pressurized, its flange rotated closer to the fuel line. The 2 metal tubes, which should never touch, began rubbing against each other. No one noticed this. After the job was done, the engine passed its ground test. No leaks, no warnings. The aircraft was cleared for service. Over the next few days, the plane flew several times. With each flight, vibration and pressure caused the 2 tubes to rub together more and more. Slowly, the wall of the fuel tube began to wear down. It was only a matter of time before it cracked. Back to the night of August 24th, Flight 236 was over the Atlantic. The plane had been loaded with 46.9 metric tons of fuel, 5.5 tons more than required. Everything seemed fine. But at 4:38 a.m., the flight data recorder showed fuel decreasing at an abnormal rate. Hours of friction had created an L-shaped crack in the fuel tube. Fuel began leaking, but there was no alarm, no warning light. The Airbus A330 had no direct sensor to detect a fuel leak. The crack widened and fuel poured out at a rate of 13 tons per hour. None of the 306 people on board knew that their fuel was silently draining into the ocean below. At 5:03 a.m., the crew noticed unusual oil readings in the right engine, the same one with the leak. They assumed it was just a computer glitch. Then, at 5:33 a.m., an advisory message appeared. A fuel imbalance between the left and right tanks. This can sometimes happen, and there's a standard checklist to fix it. But instead of following the checklist step by step, the crew relied on memory, a critical mistake. The checklist clearly said that if a fuel leak is suspected, the fuel leak procedure must be followed, not the imbalance procedure. But since they didn't check, they missed this vital note. To correct the imbalance, the crew opened the crossfeed valve. This allowed fuel from the healthy left wing tanks to flow into the right wing, where the leak was. Now, fuel from both sides was pouring out. In trying to fix the problem, they had just doubled it. 4 years earlier, an Air France plane had a similar fuel leak, and authorities had recommended installing an automated warning system in Airbus aircraft. While procedures were updated, the system was never installed. Now, the exact same scenario was happening again. By 5:45 a.m., it was clear the aircraft wouldn't make it to Lisbon. The captain, Robert Piché, and first officer Dirk de Jager decided to divert to the Azores, specifically Liège's airbase. At 5:48 a.m., they declared a fuel emergency. But at 6:13 a.m., at 34,000 feet, the right engine flamed out. The plane was now flying on one engine. Then, at 6:26 a.m., just 30 minutes later, the left engine also shut down. The massive Airbus A330 became a glider. At that moment, the plane was still 144 kilometers from the airport. The cockpit screens went dark. The main generators failed. The cabin lights went out. The plane fell silent. Panic spread among the passengers. A small wind-driven turbine, the Ram air turbine, automatically deployed, providing just enough emergency power for the flight controls. For 19 agonizing minutes, the aircraft glided without power towards Liège's airbase. There was no second chance. No option for a go-around. At 6:45 a.m., Flight 236 landed hard at Liège's. Without reverse thrust, the pilots had to use heavy braking, causing the tires to burst and sparks to fly. A small fire broke out but was quickly put out. In less than 2 minutes, all 306 people were evacuated. No one died. There were a few injuries, mostly minor ones, during the evacuation. It was one of the most incredible survival stories in aviation history. The investigation later revealed multiple failures, a missed service bulletin, maintenance shortcuts, checklist errors, and the lack of a fuel leak detection system. But against all odds, 306 people stood on solid ground that morning in the Azores, grateful to have survived what should have been an impossible flight. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story incredible, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.